Here are 5 advanced mixing tricks the pros use but never talk about. And not because they're trying to gatekeep information, but because this is the stuff that if they talk about, people will assume that that is the secret sauce to a great mix. But that is just not the case. This is the kind of stuff that can take a great mix and make it that much better. And some of these are things that are really good back pocket. You got yourself into a pickle and you need to get a good mix out of the recordings that you have, kind of thing. And yes, some of them are keeping their secrets. Trick number 1 is sidechain multiband compress everything to the kick. This is something I learned from Buster Odehome, and I really actually had to dig for this one. This is a secret that he's been using for a while where he actually sidechain compresses everything to the kick. It's a very simple process where he adds a multiband compressor and he just sidechains the low end to the kick. So, for example, the synths, the vocals, the guitars, literally everything gets sidechained to the kick. So every time the kick hits, just the low end of literally everything, even the drum rooms, are being pushed down by this multi-band compressor. And listen to how it just makes this kick sound like it's the most important and most powerful thing in the entire mix because there's nothing else fighting with it. That kick is just really punching you in the face because, well, there's nothing else there but that kick to do so when it hits. It's a very fast attack and a pretty decently fast release, right around 100 to 200 milliseconds. This is going to be different per song and depending on how much sustain that your kick actually has. But give this a shot, it's well worth your time. Mixing trick number 2 is sidechain resonant suppression on effect sends. Sidechain resonant suppression is essentially like automatic dynamic EQ. It finds resonances inside of whatever source you put it on, and it automatically locates those and turns them down. Plugins like Soothe 2 and Waves Curves Equator are great examples of this. So let's take a listen to these synths here. And notice how they do sound great already, but as we start to bring this down, it's starting to really attack those resonances that are up here. Let's also take a listen to what this sounds like on guitar. So it can make a massive difference in how the resonances sound. Now, this is a super powerful tool just the way that it is, but I use this in a more advanced way. I will put this on the effects for the vocals and sidechain it to the vocals. So I'm actually sidechaining the resonances down when the vocals are singing, and then they get brought back up afterwards. So I'm still getting that lush reverb sound. Instead of me compressing it or automating it down like you typically would, you're actually just turning down the resonances, only the specific frequencies that are fighting with the reverb and delay.
Give me war, remind the saints what we're here for.
So it's allowing those reverbs to actually sit well alongside the main vocal without getting in the way. Now, trick number 3 is automate the sends to your effect sends, not the fader itself. I know that this one is probably a little bit confusing, so let me explain what I mean. So here we have our Vox effects, and we can bring this up or down depending on what we need for the mix. And automating this up or down is a great way to make things sound super lush, especially when you have a break in your vocals here. But let's say you have a phrase that goes from one section to the next. Well, that reverb tail would have to get cut back down. Not if you automate the send to the effects. There's this phrase when he says, "Give me war," where I want that reverb to tail on, but then the next phrase starts. And if I try to bring that up or down, it'll start to sound awkward by the time the reverb comes in for this section. So take a listen to what that would sound like if I automated this normally. So that reverb has to get ducked back down pretty quickly, and then that turns the reverb down for everything. But if you actually just turn the ascend to it and bring it back, that reverb tail will still continue on while still allowing that next phrase to sound super clean. So instead of automating this fader, which controls the volume for the reverbs and delays, I'm actually automating what's being sent to there. So listen how that reverb's tail still continues on while that next phrase sounds clean, while I'm only adjusting the send. This is super helpful, especially during bigger phrases like this, where he goes really off the rails and has a lot of fun towards the end of this song. That vocalist is insanely good. Mixing trick number 4 is inverse equalization. It's like EQ matching, but just backwards. So the guitars and the synths are fighting with each other just a little bit. And so you've probably heard of Match EQ. Ozone 11 does this, and a few other EQ plugins, and they're really helpful because what they do is they will listen to whatever signal you run through it. It will then create a curve and match it exactly so that way you can apply the exact same curve to your synth. Now, if you didn't know about that already, then this is already an advanced trick in and of itself, but I actually want to flip this on its head to create space. Plugins like Pro Q3 actually allow you to do the negative gain, and sadly, Ozone 11 doesn't allow you to do that. But if you don't have Pro Q3, you can use a similar EQ that allows you to see the frequencies of 2 different tracks playing at once to see where they're masking. So you pick whichever is the most important. In this case, I think the guitars are more important than the synths, especially in this metal track. So I want to put the EQ on the synths instead and have the synths be cut, not the guitars. And then I will just sidechain it to the guitars so I can see both frequencies at the same time. And then I will start to cut the frequencies where they're overlapping. You can also use plugins like Track Spacer or Pro Q3 to make this a little bit easier, but this is a quick and dirty way of doing that and making sure that things aren't fighting with one another. And mix trick number 5 is adding mid-range for a bigger bass. Typically, we think that if we want a bigger sounding bass, we need more low end, and that is not entirely true. There's a thing called psychoacoustics. Psychoacoustics is basically how we perceive sound, not how sound actually is. It's how we perceive it. And for some reason, when there's a lot of low end, we don't perceive that nearly as powerful as when there's mid-range right above it. There are a few plugins that actually take advantage of this. Like R-Bass, for example. When you add R-Bass, it's not adding low end, it's actually adding a low mid that's above that fundamental. And it really makes things sound super big and warm. So the fundamental of this bass is actually down here around that 60, 80 hertz-ish, but if I boost an octave higher around that 160, 150 range, you'll notice that it really starts thickening it up as well, something similar to what our bass is doing. Making that bass sound a lot bigger, even though I'm not boosting that super sub-low. Because we all know that too many sub-lows really can just destroy a mix. If you have made less than 2 songs in the last 6 months and you make music like metal, rock, country, indie pop, something with somewhat of a dense style of mix, and you're just kind of frustrated that you're not finishing music the way you want to. Maybe you have a hard drive full of songs. I'm taking a few calls this week. I help people one-on-one. I open up their sessions with them, I listen to their music, and if you'd be a good fit for that, we can find out on that call. I do a few one-on-one sessions where I'm actually opening up sessions with people, listening to their music, actually allowing them to share their screen and audio directly with me, and I help them directly in their music. If that sounds interesting to you, book a free consultation call down below. I'm only taking 3 this week. Once those 3 are full, I'm going to shut that link off. On that call, we're going to see if you're a good fit for that and see how we can move forward. So that way you're actually finishing music instead of sitting on another hard drive full of songs over the next 6 months. Once again, links to that will be down in the description below. Otherwise, you're going to want to watch this video here. This is 3 frequencies that are just killing your vocal mixes. I'll see you over there. Now, as always, go create.